Hey everyone, Random Randy here. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the From Java with Love coffee cozy. This is a really simple pattern, and it's actually more versatile than you would think. Aside from being a coffee cozy, this particular size also fits my water cup, so it would be good for cold drinks as well as hot. And my 3-year-old thinks that it is an amazing wristband that gives him transformative powers. So you can make it in any colors that you want to. In this case, I'm going to be using some Hirschner's holiday yarn in a dark red with metallic, as well as for the heart, white yarn with a silver metallic thread running through it. The sample that I have already made is in Red Heart Super Saver pink tones, and the heart is the same as the white I'm going to use. For this tutorial, you're going to need a crochet hook. In this case, I am using a Susan Bates 5mm hook. You can use a 4mm hook, a G hook, if your gauge is particularly loose. However, I am more inclined to go with the 5mm just for safety's sake. I am going to be going through all of the stitches in this video as we come to them, because some of them I would say are more intermediate stitches than beginner, but this pattern is still very much beginner friendly. So grab your hook and your yarn and let's get started. Going to start off by making a slip knot in your yarn. For making a slip knot, just take the yarn with your tail in whatever hand you're going to be making your slip knot on. I wrap it around my finger once, cross it, pull it through that loop where my finger was, cinch it down, slip knot. And not the metal band, although I do enjoy them. Now that you've got your slip knot, put it on your hook. Just gently tug until it is on your hook, not quite too tight, loose enough to slide, but you don't want it too loose. We are going to be chaining 34 for the circumference of the coffee cozy. So a chain stitch, you wrap the yarn over your hook from behind, grab that new loop with the hook and pull it through the hook that is already on there. So that is your first chain stitch. One more time, wrap it around, pull it through. That makes 2 chain stitches. You're going to do 32 more for a total of 34. So if you need to, pause the video here so that you can finish up. I am going to speed through it. So once you have your 34 chains, we are going to be joining the chain to create a ring, and we're going to be working in the round from here on out. You want to make sure that it is not twisted, meaning you want to make sure that the part that looks like a braid is all facing in the same direction with no funky warps going on. So we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain that we made. And make sure that you use your working yarn and not your yarn tail like I almost just did. So you grab that on your hook and pull it through both loops on the hook. Now here I like to grab a stitch marker because we're going to be working in a continuous spiral, not in terminated rounds. So in this first space here, we're going to do a single crochet. A single crochet, you put your hook through the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, so there are 2 on the stitch, yarn over, pull through both loops. You have your first single crochet, and I'm going to put my stitch marker in there so that I don't lose where it is. Not that you really honestly can because your yarn tail is right here, but your beginning stitch does shift when you're working in a spiral, so it's not a bad idea to have some sort of stitch marker. Bobby pins, stray piece of yarn, actual stitch markers, safety pins, anything will work really. So after that single crochet, we're going to chain 1, we're going to skip the next stitch in the chain and do a single crochet into the stitch after that. Then we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip the next, into the next stitch. Single crochet into the next stitch. Now, as you can see, it's going to look kind of spaced out here, and that is perfectly okay because we're actually going to be working into the chain 1 spaces in the next row. So you're just going to keep repeating that pattern all the way around until you reach your stitch marker or the end of your row. Chain 1, skip, single crochet. Chain 1, skip, single crochet. So go ahead and finish up this row and I will meet you at the end of it. So your last stitch into the final chain should be a single crochet stitch, and now we're going to chain 1, and here's where your stitch marker becomes important. That first single crochet, you're actually going to be putting the first single crochet of the next round into that first chain 1 space that we made in the last row. So you're going to put a single crochet in there. And then I like to put the stitch marker in so I don't lose where it is. Because as I said, we're working in a continuous spiral, so it will shift a little bit. So now we're just going to continue the pattern like in the last row. We're going to chain 1, going to skip the single crochet, going to single crochet into the chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space. You're going to continue that all the way around until you get back to your marker. So go ahead and pause the video here if you need to, and I will meet you at the end of the row. And now we have reached the end of row 2. Just did a chain 1 and we're going to put the last single crochet into this space here just before the single crochet that started off the round. And now for row 3, And the rest of the rounds, going to do it the same as before. Make sure you have your chain 1 after your last single crochet into the first chain space of that previous row, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain space, chain 1, single crochet. You're going to keep doing that in the round until it is the size that you want it to be, somewhere in the realm of 12 to 14 rows. For mine from the sample, I did 14 rows, and that made it about 3.5 inches tall, which seemed perfect to me. So we are on round 3, and if you're going to make it to round 14, that's 11 more to go. So go ahead and pause the video here and finish that up, because I'm only going to do a little bit more of this on camera, and then I will meet you back up once your rows are complete. So now you should be all done with the 14th row of your linen stitch, which is also known as moss stitch and granite stitch. Not quite sure why it has so many different names, but whatever. So, getting to the fastening off part. Just did the last single crochet. I'm going to take out my stitch marker, grab my scissors. Gonna cut a tail that's about 4 to 6 inches long. I like to have a little extra to work with and to add to my scrap ball of yarn, which I will talk about at some point in a different video. So now that we've got tail to work with, going to slip stitch into the next space. Slip stitch into the top of this one right here, into that first chain space. That'll pull it together, and then you just take your yarn and tug, tug, tug until your tail pulls through, and now it is secure. Now, I'm going to show you really quick how I am going to fix the little bit of a jag you have here with tapestry needle. And then I will finish weaving in the ends of this off camera and show you how to make the heart. And if you're not interested in the heart, then you can just leave this plain as is, or you can add a different type of applique to it. Doesn't really matter. There are actually a whole bunch of different decorative type things that you could do to really make this pop and make it unique. But in this case, once you've got it threaded, hopefully you'll be able to see this all right. This is the end that you started with. This is where you joined your first round together. I'm going to take the yarn from the front to the back in what would be the next stitch, and just pull it tight. And as you can see, it's going to straighten it out quite a bit just from doing that. Now I'm actually going to flip it inside out. I'm going to weave the end in a little bit as I go. Just go through a few stitches here and there, through the back bumps there. And actually that first weird space that you had from when you started your first row, going to go through here and weave it in so you won't have a funky space when you look on the outside. It will seem more solid. And just keep weaving in your end as you normally would. I like to go through any spaces that look kind of loose through the back just to neaten up the way that it looks a little. I also like to do what I call a sort of knot. In that I'll pull it through so I have a loop like this. Pull it through so there's a little bit of a loop, and then go back through it just for some extra security. So it's not quite like tying it off with a knot, but it does help everything stay together. And I'm gonna call that good enough. Going to snip off the end. And I'm going to turn it back right side out. And as you can see, my yarn actually had a knot in it. Turn it back right side out. And now, looking along this edge here, which was actually our first edge, it no longer has the weird, funky bump. It almost looks smooth completely. If you look really close, you'll be able to see the teeny little bit of a difference, but it's not as noticeable. So go ahead and weave in your other end. And as I said, if you don't want to make the heart, then thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you want to use it for other things, that's great. But if you want to make the heart applique, then pause it here, weave in your last end, and I will show you how to make that. Now that you have the ends on this woven in, you can just set it to the side. Grab whatever yarn you're going to be using to make the heart. As I said, in my case, it is this white yarn with the silver metallic thread through it. Very sparkly. Very festive for multiple holidays. And we are going to use the same size hook that you've been using. In my case, that's 5mm, and we're going to start the heart with a magic ring. For a magic ring, you're going to have the yarn tail, which is the end that's not attached to the ball, hang over your hand, hold it between your thumb and finger, wrap it around your fingers, cross it over here, stick the hook under both strands, grab the one that's still attached to the ball, pull it through. And you're going to chain 2. And as you can see, you've got this weird little loop. Don't worry, we're going to be able to cinch that down when we're done with the first round. Now we're going to do 3 treble crochets into the ring. A treble crochet, yarn over not once, but twice. Then you put your hook through the center of the ring, yarn over and pull up another loop. So now there are 4 on the hook. Yarn over one more time, going to go through 2 loops. So now there's 3. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, and go through the last 2. That is your first treble crochet. Going to do 2 more, so yarn over twice, through the center, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through the middle 2, yarn over, and through the last 2. So there's 2 treble crochets, yarn over twice, through the center of the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over once more, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the middle 2, yarn over, and through the last 2. So now you've got your 3 trebles. We're going to do 2 double crochets, double crochet, yarn over through the center of the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, so you have 3, yarn over once more, through the center 2, yarn over through the last 2. Do 1 more double crochet, yarn over, into the center, yarn over, pull up a loop, through the middle 2, yarn over, through the last 2. Now we are going to chain 1 and do 2 more double crochets into the ring. And now we are going to do 3 more treble crochets. Yarn over twice, into the loop, yarn over, through 2, through 2, through 2. A treble crochet is really just a double crochet with 1 extra step up. That's really all it is. Yarn over twice, through 2, through 2, through 2. And 1 more treble. So now, going to grab onto the tail of the magic ring. I like to hold on to my last couple stitches and you just gently tug. Or in the case of a yarn with a metallic thread, it takes a little bit more force, but you just tug and tug and tug until it all pulls together. Now we're going to chain 2. And we're going to slip stitch right into the middle of the ring. That's going to pull the edges down, so it's going to look like a heart. You may have to adjust your ring a little bit. And as you can see, that is the first round of your heart. Now, if you wanted to, this does look enough like a heart that you could just leave it here. It's very small, but you could leave it this way if you wanted to. I, however, like it to be a bit larger so it has a little more heart shape to it. So this is round 2 and the final round of the heart. So to start off this second row, you're going to do a single crochet into the top of the chain 2 that started your last round. So instead of going into this first treble, you're actually going to go right here into this second chain stitch. I'm going to do a single crochet there. Then right here we're going to do 2 half double crochets, a half double crochet, you yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull up a 3rd loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Do 1 more in that space, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through all 3. The next stitch gets 3 half double crochets. The next stitch gets 2 half double crochets. The next stitch gets 3 half double crochets. And the next gets 2 half double crochets. So now you should be at your chain 1 space from the center of the previous round, and in here you're going to do 1 half double crochet, 1 double crochet, and 1 half double crochet. That's going to give you the little point on the bottom. Now, because those stitches will squish together, you're going to want to make sure that you slide them over so that you can do your next 2 half double crochets into this space here before the next double. You don't want to do it into the top of this one because then your count is going to be off. So right in here, I'm going to do 2 half double crochets. Next stitch is 3 half double crochets. Next stitch is 2 half double crochets. Next is 3. And this last one is 2 half double crochets. Now you're going to end here, and I like to chain 1 and then slip stitch right into the second chain of the chain 2 that you ended the last row with. And that's going to cinch it right down into a very obvious heart shape. And now we're done, so we can snip off the yarn. I'm going to leave a long tail for this, about somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 inches, maybe a foot, just to be safe, because you're actually going to be using this extra long tail to sew your heart onto your coffee cozy. So now I like to slip stitch in one more time just for extra security, and then fasten off, just pull it all the way through. Now you can set your hook aside. You've got this super cute little heart. You're going to want to tighten up your magic ring and weave in the end for that before you sew it on, or you're going to have a weird long dangly tail in the middle of everything that's going to be funky. So for finishing off magic rings, personally, I like to go back through what would be the next few stitches all at once, tug it super tight, do my little half-ish knot to secure it, tighten it down, and then just weave it through a few other places just to make sure it's not going to pop out anywhere. And this heart applique, you can actually use it for pretty much anything you want to. You don't have to just use it on a coffee cozy. You could put it on an amigurumi, on a doll. You could put it on anything you felt like sewing it to. That is good enough. Snip off the extra. These teeny tiny little scissors, by the way, are fantastic. I have had them for going on 6 years now. They are still super, super sharp. I only use them to cut yarn, and they obviously don't have a very big footprint as far as space goes in my notions bag for crocheting. So now that we only have this end left, you're going to want to thread your yarn tail onto your tapestry needle. And I like to go through, as with the body of the cozy, take the yarn from the front to the back through what would be the next stitch if you were to continue crocheting. And as you can see, it just straightens the front right out. Now grab the body of your coffee cozy. Figure out placement. You can put it dead in the center. You could make it funky and tilted sideways. I think I like the way it looks a little bit sideways like that, so I'm going to hold it there. If you are not super confident with sewing, you could always use stitch markers or pins to hold it in place. I've got a pretty good handle on sewing stuff, so I'm just going to kind of hold it there with my finger. So now that this is through here. I like to go a little bit behind. If I were to press it flat, rather than going in one of the stitches that's up here, I'm going to go in one that's a little bit farther down, so probably somewhere in this region, and bring it back up underneath the next stitch, just like you would if you were going to crochet. I like to go underneath the V shape that you can see on top of a crochet stitch. Then going over the next stitch, through it, and into a couple of loops from the body of the cozy. Just pull it through. And it gets easier as you go along, you get more used to it. Go back up through here, straighten it out, and that's going to flatten out your edge. Go back down through here, under a couple of the red loops beneath. And just keep going until you've got it completely attached. It's gonna take a few minutes, so I'm going to speed through this part. And you can pause it here and meet me back once you've got your heart sewn on the way that you want it to be, and we will fasten it off together. So once you have your heart completely sewn onto the body of your coffee cozy, I like to take my yarn all the way through the entire piece into the center, flip it inside out, and just weave the end in a few spots. I like to tie my little half knot pretty frequently, which, if you ever want to unravel a piece and reclaim the yarn, is absolutely horrible, but if you don't want your piece to come apart, it is fantastic. And once you've got it woven into your satisfaction in the back, just snip off your yarn, turn it right side out, and you have got yourself an adorable, potentially multi-purpose, at least if you have toddlers, coffee cozy, or water cup holder, depending upon whichever you have a need for, or tea. There's nothing wrong with tea. So there you have it, your From Java with Love coffee cozy. If this content was helpful for you, don't forget to drop this video a like, leave me some comments down below in the comment section, let me know how it worked up for you. If you have any questions or concerns with the pattern, feel free to leave them there and I will try to get back to them as soon as possible. If you want to see more content like this and you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future tutorials or my weekly yarn talks where I go over all of the knitting and crochet projects that I have been working on in the previous week. Thank you so much everybody for watching, happy hooking, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.